All right, so today we're going to talk about a holiday we all think we know, Halloween, but we're looking at it through two totally different lenses. For some, it's a serious ancient warning. For others, it's a modern sacred rite. So, let's get into it.
It starts with a pretty basic question, right? Why do we do this stuff? Why pumpkins? Why the ghost stories on this one specific night, October 31st?
And look, for most of us, the answer is simple. It's just tradition. It's fun, you get to wear a costume, hang out with people, and, score a ton of candy. But for some people, thinking about it that way isn't just simple, it's actually dangerous. Check out this quote from Fred R. Coulter's book, Occult Holidays, or God's Holy Days. He says societies are caught in a downward spiral of immorality, approaching the degradation of Sodom and Gomorrah, the biblical cities that were destroyed for their wickedness. So this view isn't seeing harmless fun. It's seeing a symptom of a massive moral crisis.
Okay, so let's really dig into this first perspective, the one that sees Halloween as a serious occult warning.
The key word here is occult. So what does that even mean? Well, according to the text, it comes from the Latin word for concealed or hidden. It's about knowledge that's beyond what we normally know. But, and this is crucial, it's seen as a kind of substitute for real biblical miracles, one that instead calls on what the text calls spirit powers or demons.
And this argument gets really specific. It traces Halloween's origins directly to the worship of an ancient goddess named Hecate. She was known as the goddess of witchcraft and a sorceress of the afterlife. The source even details specific rituals people used to appease her. Things like leaving out food offerings, called Hecate's Supper. But it also gets darker, talking about sacrifices of puppies and black lambs. Even an owl hooting was seen as a good sign from her, and places where violent things happened were thought to be total magnets for spirits. And get this, even our familiar jack-o'-lantern has a place in this story. The customer is said to come from an old Irish legend about this guy named Jack. He was so stingy that he was banned from both heaven and hell, so he was doomed to just walk the earth forever, with only a lantern to guide him. From this viewpoint, that pumpkin on your porch is a direct link to a story about eternal damnation. So, this is what it all boils down to. The jack-o'-lantern, the connection to spirits, all of it. From this perspective, these aren't just harmless traditions. They're called doctrines of demons, and they're designed to trick people into worshiping Satan without even knowing they're doing it. Okay, now let's just flip the script completely. We're going to look at a totally different way of seeing these exact same traditions. Not as a warning, but as a genuinely sacred rite. Our source for this is a forum for a group called Cedar Lightgrove. They're a modern Druid group, which is a spiritual path that draws inspiration from old Celtic traditions. And back in 2004, they posted an announcement for a community ritual for Samhain. That's the ancient Gaelic festival that many of our Halloween traditions actually come from. And the tone here is, well, worlds apart. Just listen to this line from one of their chants. By fire and by water, between the earth and sky, we stand like the world tree rooted deep, crowned high. You hear that? There's no talk of demons or damnation. It's all about connecting with nature, about being spiritually grounded. And their rite of Samhain isn't some casual get-together. It's a very structured event, almost like a formal church service. It starts with calling the community together, then there's a purification of everyone there. Then they honor the Earth Mother, do a grounding meditation, and it all leads up to this symbolic opening of the portals between our world and the world of the gods. And you can really feel what this means to them when you read what a participant posted on the forum. They said, "A lot of hard work did go into this ritual. This was for us a labor of love." For this community, it's a deeply meaningful, positive, spiritual act. So, we've got two views of the same holiday that just cannot coexist. But here's the thing. This battle over the meaning of holidays, it goes way beyond October 31st. Let's jump back to our first source, because it uses this exact same critical thinking on Christmas. The argument is that its most beloved symbols, they're actually pagan. The Christmas tree is supposedly the sacred tree of the winter god. Mistletoe, that was a sacred plant for the Druids, a symbol of fertility. Even the date itself, December 25th, gets linked back to the Roman festival of Saturnalia, a time described as pure debauchery. This critique goes even deeper, right into central religious figures. This slide breaks down three different views of Mary. You've got the biblical Mary on the left, described as a humble handmaid who knows she needs a savior.
But the source argues the Catholic version in the middle takes on the title Queen of Heaven and is seen as being without sin, which almost perfectly mirrors the pagan goddess on the right, who has the same title and, well, as a goddess, wouldn't need salvation.
So then, the argument zooms out into our world, right now, and it claims that modern entertainment, movies, shows, you name it, is just saturated with these occult themes. And the whole point, from this perspective, is to make these ideas seem normal, to desensitize all of us. And this isn't just some vague accusation. The source actually lists over 50 mainstream films from just a few years that it says are examples of this. We're talking huge blockbusters like the Harry Potter series, Zombieland, and even James Cameron's Avatar. From this viewpoint, these, let's call them doorways to the occult, they're everywhere, hiding in plain sight. They're in stuff you might not even think twice about, like Ouija boards or certain tattoos. The critique even points to old-school video games, like Quake, saying its pentagram power-up and its armor rating of 666 are obvious, deliberate occult symbols. So at the end of it all, we are left with two completely separate worlds. On one side, you've got this view of Halloween as part of a downward spiral of immorality into the depths of Satan. And on the other, it's a labor of love, something that honors the elder ways and builds community. One side sees deceiving demons, the other sees spiritual growth. They just can't be reconciled. And that brings us to the final big question, one that really affects how all of us think about these traditions. When we as a culture all share a symbol, like a jack-o'-lantern, but we fundamentally can't agree on what it means, whose story are we actually telling? And what does it mean for you when you participate in something that is so intensely contested? Definitely something to think about.